Hello to anyone and everyone who is watching this video. Today, I'm showing off the G.I.Joe Classified Vamp with the included clutch figure. Not that shocking that the Vamp would come with clutch if you know your G.I. Joes, but I mean, not every Vamp has included him. But it was pretty safe to say that if Classified was ever getting a Vamp, which I figured it always would, it would come with that guy right there. And before we take a look at the big, amazing Jeep itself, we should take a look at him. And of course, the first things I would like to point out are the parts that are nice, but for me, the least important. He's got this shotgun that I believe is identical to the one that came with Hawk, except for the additions of the brown paint on the pump, I guess, and the butt of the gun. And also he comes with a steel core, steel brigade helmet, and it is a unique helmet to him, as you can see with those crazy tech details in the visor. And he's got the fun shark fighter jet teeth painted on the sides. And you know, this is a nice inclusion for people who are going to army build this Jeep, if you really have the money to be doing that. Camera doesn't really want to focus in on him, but it's just not fun if he ain't moving. Anyway, it is nice if you want to army build him, so you can have a bunch of different drivers, or have the ones with the helmets be just troops on the ground. But I am not I am not the biggest fan of the Joes having generic troops, even though I love the Steel Brigade designs. So for me, it's just clutch. And look at his beautiful, beautiful face. Very nice. He's got that big bushy beard, which he has always had in toy form. But some people think that because the comics depicted him with more of a Shaggy from Scooby-Doo-like stubble, that that's how he should be. But his original toy had the full beard, so every toy has the full beard, and I like him with the full beard. He also has his more traditional He Is Clutch helmet, and this is the helmet I'm going to display him with. And for other accessories, he has this pistol on his chest. It's not really, there we go. And he can remove this wrench that is on his hip, this big bright red wrench. As you can see, that can come out. And it is nice to have clutch, have another one of the original 13/14 Joes in his nice green colors. And I love the tattoos. It's a very recurring thing for G.I. Joe Classified, and I'm not the biggest fan of tattoos in real life. That's just a personal thing. I don't have a problem with people getting them, but they just aren't my thing. But it is fun for toys. And on this arm, he's got a bunch of car-based stuff with the checkered flags, some dice that would presumably be hanging from a rear view mirror, and a engine that appears to be having some fire coming out of it. And on this side, he's got like a 50s style pinup lady, and I can't completely tell what the stuff underneath her is supposed to be. And of course, he's got the American flag on his shirt shoulder because he is an American soldier. And, you know, nothing really special about the back, just some green uniform. And that is clutch. Not the most impressive, blown away level figure in the line, but a figure that is definitely nice to have just because he's one of the original Joes, and it's nice to get another one, and hopefully we'll get them all soon. And one more thing we got to show off with Clutch here is, of course, getting him in to his signature ride, and you absolutely can stuff him in through the side, although, yeah, that's a thing we'll address later. Although the optional security grip bar thing does kind of get in the way. So, just like the Vamps of old, it is better to, of course, slot him in through the top, and you can get him to grip onto the steering wheel, which is kind of a given for big collector-based figures. And let's just turn around to the other side, and we of course have the passenger seat, and we will bring in fellow original 14 member Shooter, who I never got to do a proper video on, unfortunately, because I love this figure and one of my first ever Joes when I started getting into Joe properly, collecting wise, was the 4-inch Shooter. And yeah, as you can see, being a smaller figure, like she and basically every other female is, it's easier to get her in. And there she is next to Clutch, who is in as far as you can get him, but you can kind of scoot Shooter in a little bit more, but that would just make her look like bad from a posture perspective. But yeah, very easy to get them in and out. That's not shocking given how open the area is, but still, it's nice that they fit in no problem. Really nice, and it's just here. And you, of course, just have a complete Vamp now when you have passengers, and it's just nice to have this big, chunky thing that rolls around. And of course, it's got plenty of features that we should look at and will be looking at right now. Alright, I'm gonna have to go a little bit of a freehand for this, so I apologize for any shakiness, but I wanted to take some time to point out all the fun stuff going on in the dashboard here, and I'll use Shooter's gun as a bit of a pointer. And we have basically just nothing here. Like, we have some details, which I guess is meant to imply kind of a glove box, and here we have what appears to be a 2D representation of a flashlight, and here we've got some stuff looking like a radio, and can't really decipher what that bit is supposed to be. And this one right here is really interesting to me, because this looks like a targeting computer for the guns, which of course, it's always been a question, how do the guns on the Vamp work? I know the comic said Clutch has like a little remote for it. I like to believe the second passenger has control of that, and this whole computer thing is right next to this lever, which I think is probably meant to be more of an emergency brake, because this doesn't look like it could control that turret, but at the same time, maybe that is what it's meant to be implied right here, given that it's right next to what has to be a screen for the gun. And then here, some of it is being obscured by Clutch's hands. You just have the typical car details, speedometers, and probably a fuel gauge in there, but it's probably too small to tell, and a bunch of nondescript buttons. There's some extra ones over on this side, and there is the steering wheel. You know, it's not details that had to be included, but it's nice to see them in here, and I feel they were definitely worth pointing out. Now we're taking a look at the front of the car, clearly, because we're taking a look at that engine inside, which is a nice thing to see. I don't believe any iteration of the Vamp has included this, but I know a lot of larger vehicles from the old 4-inch Joe scale have, and this is a larger Vamp, so why not include it? It is a very simple detail, kind of soft sculpting wise, no paint. It really doesn't need to be anything more though, and of course close the hood, make sure you lock it in, and the hood piece actually seems to be a bit of a brighter shade of green, but it's got the traditional lines in the hood, except instead of just being black, this time you can actually see the engine, because there's a real engine in there. And of course we have the graphics of the United States with the Joe star and the caution thing, and of course we have these two removable pieces of what I assume is a tarp to cover up the Jeep, and then whatever the heck this is. I know there is some old artwork that depicts this as being a gun, an extra gun, but this version is definitely not a gun given the way it's sculpted. And it has the traditional shovel that is on this version removable. It's a little bit hard. I mean, you can obviously do it, but I do worry sometimes about it maybe breaking. And actually, a thing I gotta bring up is, of course, the shovel is mounted there because there's always been a shovel sculpted in on the Vamp. But I know there's at least one version of the Vamp that has a shotgun mounted on the opposite side, and we have a shotgun here, but there's no way to mount it, and I wish that feature would have been brought back. It would have made this gun feel like it has a real reason to be included in the set. But unfortunately, nope, that other side has just got to be blank. And if we roll back here to look at the front, we got another caution graphic. We got one of the optional floodlights. We got these nice little yellow loops that are separate pieces, but you can't really pull them forward or anything. Feels like you should, but they would break. And of course we have the working winch, and I assume this is able to hook onto these. It doesn't feel like it can, because I mean, right now the only other vehicle this thing could pull out with the winch would be a second Vamp, but if we properly look at the hook, I can't really see. There's very little room here, so I don't know how good it would actually be at getting around these yellow loops, and I don't really want to try. I don't want to risk breaking it. And of course, to bring it back in, you just gotta manually spin it, and it's in, and that's a lot of what's going on. The only other things we gotta point out are those nice silver painted headlights. And if we go back and look, we got that windshield, the first Vamp to ever have a proper window or windshield at all, and just like a real military Jeep, it flops down and we can see clutch and shooter still sticking in there, as they will be for the rest of this video. And I just noticed the rear view mirror. I didn't even realize that was up in there. Nice inclusion. Really nice. Did not know that was there. Anyway, let's move on over to the side of the vehicle. And we got more graphics here. Just stuff here down on the floorboards. We got that thing. What does that say? Gas cans falling about. To unlatch, pull on release lever and fold backwards slowly to avoid finger trap. Okay, obviously not something the real thing can do, but I'm sure real military Jeeps work like that. We got the Joe logo. We got a danger thing that is probably looks even smaller than the other thing, so I'm not even going to try reading it. And then we got this fake door that implies the inclusion of a toolkit. And another thing, side view mirrors actually work as mirrors. I don't know what is in there because it's definitely not glass, but something's reflective. And I'm noticing again that rear view mirror that I didn't realize was there. That has silver paint. So 2 of the mirrors work, 1 of them doesn't. If we flip on over to the other side, it is basically the exact same thing, except we have a American flag here. Instead of a toolkit, it is a med aid kit. And we got the gas cap. And that is nice. And oh, there's some orange rectangles down here. Are those on the other side? Yes, they are. Now we look to the back. Oh, the axe is coming out. Yeah, this is removable, by the way. So you can just slot that back in. And we got rear view lights, stand away, more caution, more United States, gas tanks that are very, very dangerous gas tanks. And I haven't pointed this out yet, but this thing does have nice suspension. I should probably zoom out and just show off that suspension. Just bringing that up. And then there is the weakest part of this thing for me, and that is the gun. And I wish that it was like the vintage one, where it's just a big old block with 2 barrels coming out of it. Or at least that's the least I would have wished from it. And I understand why they did this. This was a cool idea, but I'm just not into it. So basically these are like Roadblock's gun. Just 2 of Roadblock's gun that you can remove. And the bullet boxes just sit in this nice little cradle, which I like. But you notice this thing doesn't really have that much movement, which, I mean, the Vamp has never had that much range. Oh yeah, also this piece is removable. I have no idea why. Maybe so they can use this cradle piece for the Stinger or something. And as we noticed earlier, it's completely removable, which is nice, but it comes off from this peg way too much. Way too much. And I just would have liked, one, that peg to be secure, and I would have liked a simpler, more solid gun, because honestly, making it a modular come apart thing like this is cool. I don't know when I'm ever going to use that. Also, for some reason, the instructions said instead of putting the boxes for the bullets on the cradle to just put them on the sides of the truck bed. That's an odd choice. A very odd choice. Another thing that would have been cool to see, but it would have defied the ability to be a one-to-one recreation of the original vintage Vamp, is I would have liked them to maybe just go full Halo Warthog with this and like include a place for a third character to stand. Like, could just bring in Mutt here and have him control the gun, but nope, can't do that. Can't do it at all. Even though the Pursuit of Cobra Vamp could do that, and that one was also a 4-seater. And you know, would the 4 seats have been cool? Sure, but we don't really. I can live without them for a giant 6-inch scale Vamp, but I would have liked them to have gone the more fun route of including a proper gunner seat, or again, just a way for the passenger to be shown as controlling the gun, because come on, just let us have our fun. Also, I haven't mentioned yet, there is the little fire extinguisher that stores back here. Just the last accessory I haven't really brought up yet. But yeah. And there is just one more thing that definitely needs to be done and mentioned, and that is showing what the Vamp looks like next to the big old his tank. Bring in Mutt again, just because. And since we got Mutt in here, we of course gotta bring in Junkyard. And yeah, they're obviously the his tank is bigger. Not as big as you'd think it'd be. This Vamp is huge. It is really huge. But you know, at the same time, it feels right. Like, it feels like Turtle's van size, if you understand that. Because Turtles are more 5-inch. These are 6-inch. Like, this feels more right. This feels like the size if they ever fulfill their promise of a retail Vamp. This is a retail Vamp. A retail Hiss. That's the size that new Hiss will be. Because I am not convinced that they are going to strip down the features of the HasLab one. I think they're going to make a full brand new Hiss if they ever do a retail Hiss, but still. Get this out of here. And we'll keep Mutt and Junkyard in the shot, just because not really, probably not going to be doing any videos for them either at this point. But there is the Vamp. It's a really nice piece if you love G.I. Joe Classified like I do, and you like the Vamp. Like, I guess I can't really say I love the Vamp before getting this thing because I've never owned a Vamp, but I knew the Vamp was essential. I've always liked the design of it, so I figured Classified would last long enough to get one, and I'd always get one if they did, and they have. It is still feels a little too pricey. Every company charges too much nowadays, and to be honest, I brought up before that I actually don't agree with Hasbro's prices, but I still think they're better than a lot of other companies. And for the most part, I think this is a worth it thing. Like, I don't really care for how the gun is done. But, like, that's it. That's it. And at least it's designed in a way where it will be easy to put on new mounts for all the other repaints. And I hope to see all those repaints. I don't think I will get all those repaints just because of space being an issue. I'll definitely get the Tiger Force one. And I'm curious as to whether or not that will include a Tiger Force clutch or just a different character. I'd prefer a different character. And I might get the Dreadnought Ground Assault, just because I do love that color scheme too. I almost want a Stinger, but I feel like I would only be buying that for the driver, so I'm probably going to skip that one. So if they do the Dreadnought one, then that means I'm going to wind up with 3 of this thing, because they're definitely going to do the Tiger Force one, and I will definitely buy the Tiger Force one. But good toy. Definitely a very, very nice toy. And maybe the best vehicle in Classified to date. So, that's about all I have to say here. Thanks for watching, and see you guys around.